Tonight, Elon Musk vowing to rehire the Doge staffer who resigned just yesterday after being linked to racist social media posts. An account that appears to be connected to that staffer, 25-year-old Marco Elez, posting in December, quote, "I just want a eugenic immigration policy." In September, there was this, quote, "normalize Indian hate." Coming to his defense today, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, whose wife and children, of course, are Indian Americans. Vance posted, quote, "I obviously disagree with some of Elez's posts, but I don't think stupid social media activity should ruin a kid's life." President Trump backing him up.
Well, I don't know about the particular thing, but if the vice president said that, did you say that? I'm with the vice president.
Renee Marsh is out front. So, Renee, what more do we know about this Doge staffer and, frankly, some of the other young engineers and staffers who are working for Musk?
Erica, the 25-year-old Doge staffer is also linked to a social media post that calls for the repealing of the Civil Rights Act. We know that Marco Elez graduated from Rutgers University in 2021, and shortly after that began working at Musk's company SpaceX. And as a Doge staffer, he was considered a special government employee. He had access to sensitive federal agency IT systems and data, similar to the slate of other 20-something-year-old engineers who are on Musk's Doge team. And it does not appear that he has any prior federal government system. But again, the Doge team that Musk has compiled, again, it consists of these 20-something-year-olds or early 20s who have impressive accomplishments in the tech world. They're engineers, but again, they're novices when it comes to their experience in understanding the federal government and how it works. Musk's team includes a 23-year-old software engineer from Nebraska. He used AI, for example, to help decipher an ancient scroll buried for centuries. And there's another who was a runner-up in a hackathon contest last year as a Harvard senior, and a third is a CEO of a multi-billion-dollar startup. So that just gives you a sense of just, who these people are. I can tell you tonight here in Washington, D.C., there is high concern, especially from Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill, about the lack of transparency about who exactly is being hired under the Doge team, the security and background clearances that they've undergone, what sort of data they're accessing, and what they're doing with that data. We just learned, and this is just coming in, that an internal Treasury memo warns that Doge's access to Treasury's payment systems poses an unprecedented insider threat. So that is the latest. Again, this internal memo going around at Treasury, essentially saying that these individuals who had access to these internal IT systems, that this poses an, quote, unprecedented insider threat. So lots of concern here in Washington about just who these people are, what they're getting access to, and what they plan on doing with it.
My political sources are also here at the table tonight, S.C. Cupp and Jamal Simmons. This back and forth that was caused by the 25-year-old, Ro Khanna was tweeting at J.D. Vance today when he was saying, essentially, give this kid some grace. He said, I disagree with his views, obviously, but he said we shouldn't reward journalists who try to destroy people because of stupid social media activity, and it shouldn't ruin his life. I say bring him back. If he's a bad dude or a terrible member of the team, fire him for that. Ro Khanna responded and said, are you just going to tell him to apologize for saying, quote, normalize Indian hate before this rehire? Just asking for the sake of both of our kids.
Yeah, that was a really interesting exchange between Ro Khanna, who is Indian, and J.D. Vance, who married an Indian. They both have Indian children, and this guy was specifically targeting Indians with his racist tweets. So that was really interesting. But the dig-in by J.D. Vance and the dig-in by Elon Musk and Trump is seeming to reward the cruelty. I don't want to cancel and ruin people's lives either, and I hate cancel culture. But this person didn't ask for forgiveness. This person didn't explain themselves. So bringing him back is rewarding the racism in particular, because they're not rewarding his ability. We don't know who this kid is or what he can do. They're rewarding the cruelty. And it's just such a terrible message. He resigned. It seems like either he had the right idea or someone said to him, this is untenable. You should probably just step aside. And, MAGA wanted him back because nothing is disqualifying anymore. Nothing.
What did you make of this, Jamal, seeing all this happen? Because this was in the middle of the press conference today. Trump was asked about what Vance had said, and J.D. Vance was sitting right there, and Trump asked him, did you say he should come back? And Trump said, well, I agree then.
Yeah, it's concerning, and it gets to the question you have about cruelty. It's concerning and distressing because here you have somebody who has gone after, who said like, pretty vile things on Twitter, but recently, or not on Twitter, but on social media, but recently, just in July, look, people have had questions about things I've tweeted before, but they were years ago in the past. And when you get caught saying something that doesn't represent your views, you say, I'm sorry, that doesn't represent my views. That's not what this young man is saying. And it just happened in July. I think that's the thing that's concerning. And so now we have this question for me. I ask, what's going to make the United States more competitive? What's going to make sure that we're not going to have a corrupt government? And what they're doing right now with the Doge team looks like it is taking the United States out of the leadership position in the world and out of the business of taking care of America's leadership position in the world. That, to me, is much more concerning about what they're up to at the Doge.
Well, and with Trump saying today that he is going to start with the Pentagon next, that he has directed him and given him the authority to go there, that was kind of an obvious question in why Doge didn't start there. I mean, if you look at the federal budget, the Pentagon has the most discretionary spending. Yeah. But how does this work for someone like Elon Musk, who is policing his own conflicts of interest here and has gotten $3.5 billion worth of contracts from the Pentagon in the last decade or so?
And subsidies, let's not forget, and subsidies for SpaceX and Tesla. The conflicts are very concerning. No one should be allowed to self-police, but the conflicts are not concerning to the top of the executive, I guess. And listen, I'm a conservative, and I'll remind people what that looks like. People who want to lower the debt and the deficit. People who care about fiscal responsibility.
Strong national defense?
Strong national defense. And so I love the idea of, I'm a starve the beast conservative. I love the idea of shrinking the size of the federal government, but the way to do it is to be organized, to let people know in advance, here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna look at all of these departments. You'll have 8 months to sort of decide, what we're gonna do. And if we're gonna lay off, we're gonna give you notice. I mean, there's a way to do it that is both legal, which we don't think is happening here, and also for the betterment of these departments and the country. Slashing the FBI and CIA does not make us safe, does not help our national security. So listen, there's a way to do this right. I'm not against all of it, but they're not doing it.
But can we talk about transparency on this though? Because Elon Musk has been one of the biggest proponents of transparency. He was even saying, a few months ago, unless it's related to like nuclear secrets, everything should be made available as soon as possible so people can know what's going on. James Comer, a top Republican on House Oversight, the top Republican, was asked about how he thought Doge was operating, and this is what he had to say.
Elon Musk is being very transparent. He's tweeting multiple times a day about what thoughts he's having, different aspects of the federal government he's examining, and things like that. I think as long as he's being transparent, I think that that eliminates a big part of what the Oversight Committee is about.
Yeah, we don't know what these guys are doing over there, right? We don't know what they're copying. We don't know what they're seeing. There are questions about whether or not they're actually looking into the code that's happening. We don't know who they're going to decide to pay, who they're not going to decide to pay. Apparently, they've just closed the U.S. Trade Development Agency, USTDA, which is something that we go into developing countries and we find opportunities for American companies to go and do work and make money. And they're shutting that down because Doge wants to stop its action right now. I just don't know how this makes America stronger.
We'll see. SC Cup, Jamal Simmons, great to have you both here.